are the Advocacy Fellows, heroes voicing for and empowering young adults with learning disability.
Hello, my name is Liddy.
Hello, my name is Jack.
My name is Max.
Hello, my name is Kate.
What's your name, Matthew, please?
Matthew.
Thank you.
Welcome to our Advocacy Fellows podcast. This time we are with Kate Evan-Hughes.
Last time we had Ali Ballman, but this time we got Kate Evan-Hughes. The reason why Kate is here is because Kate is the new Strategic Director for Children, Families and Schools at Cornwall Council, like this one. She has been in the post a few months now, and the Advocacy Fellows felt it was time to find out more about her.
Welcome and thank you for being a part of our podcast, Kate.
Absolutely. And our Advocacy Fellows has come up with questions that they would like to ask you about yourself, your experience and your role.
Where you work before?
So I actually worked for Cornwall Council before, and I was the Service Director for Education and Community Health. So I've been in Cornwall since the 1st of February 2020, so just before we went into the pandemic. So I was in Cornwall before. Before that, I was in Pembrokeshire in Wales.
Mm-hmm. Did you had any pets?
I do. I have two dogs. One is called Mab and one is called Non, and they are both Collie Labrador crosses. So they are very energetic, and Non is very naughty. So Non likes to steal food, and I have to hide the food so that Non can't steal the food. So Non would be very fat if I let her eat as much as she would like to eat. So we have to exercise her a lot.
Greedy Non.
She is a greedy Non, absolutely.
How far did it take for you to get from Pembrokeshire to Cornwall?
So Pembrokeshire to Cornwall takes about 7 hours in the car. So I moved pretty quickly to Cornwall to make sure that I didn't have to travel those 7 hours.
Let's see what the next one is.
At like my school, have you going to make people more please young people with learning disabilities?
You love your school, which is absolutely great. How am I going to make more places available for young people with learning disabilities? Yeah, fab. So actually next week I've got a meeting with our property services because we know we need more places. So property services look after all of the buildings that we have in Cornwall Council. And I'm asking them, have we got buildings that are available now that we can start to do that work in terms of expanding the number of school places that we've got for children and young people with learning disabilities. So that's happening next week, and I'm more than happy to keep you posted on what the outcome of those meetings is. So we recognise we need more, and that's what we're doing about it to try and find ways to do that.
Why did you decide to work with children, families and schools?
Right, so for me, the most important element of our future is our children and young people because they are the adults of the future. And I particularly I've worked a lot. So I started my teaching career with children who were hearing impaired. I then went on to run a setting that was for children who are on the autistic spectrum. I then became a head teacher in a primary school that had a number of children who were on the autistic spectrum. So I've got a history of working with children with learning disabilities and special educational needs. And I want to work with them to find out what's the best that we can offer to make a difference for them so they lead their best lives when they're adults.
And is it tricky working with families and schools?
Sometimes it's difficult to balance the what the family would like, what the young person would like, what the school would like, and to be absolutely blunt, what we can afford. And sometimes we have to work and negotiate, but it's always really important for me that we listen to the young person, what they want, we listen to the family and what they want, and then we know how we have to work through that. So I think that's the challenge sometimes, is that we can't always give everybody what they'd want, that's part of life, but understanding what they would like to have and how can we get as close to that as possible, I think is what we would aim to do. We don't always get it right, and for me the most important thing is that when we don't get it right, we apologise and we say we're sorry that we haven't got it right, because that can make a real difference to people feeling heard.
How are you going to work with the adult services to have a smoother transition into the adult services?
Okay, so you've met Ali Bullman. Ali Bullman and I work really closely together, so I think it's probably the first time that the service director who has responsibility for children and adults are working as closely as we are now. That's not to say they haven't in the past, but it's very close now. We've got teams working across. We've asked for a look at what works in transitions and what doesn't. We did have something called the Preparing for Adulthood Board, which I've stopped at the moment because I want to make sure we're doing the right thing about working together, whereas what we were getting was almost updates from adult services and updates from children's services. We want to make sure we're getting updates about how we'll be making a difference around that transition.
You heard of the new Downs syndrome policy around surveying the number, you can say number, of pupils with Downs syndrome, and how are you going to tackle it?
So that's a really good question, and I will absolutely acknowledge that we haven't actually thought about that stage of how we're going to implement that at the moment. So I think probably there's a further conversation for us to have. We can have more talks about how we do that, what's the right thing to do, and certainly make sure that we're involving the Down syndrome community in those conversations as well. So, you know, as I said, I'm always going to be honest with you. I'm not going to fudge it.
We asked you young people of CAP or Cornwall Accessory Activities Programme who fall under your service if they have any questions for you. They most want to talk about school placements for children with special education needs.
Alex asks, why can't I go to school? His mother explained that there are no suitable school places in Cornwall for him. Therefore, how are you going to improve SEN provision for children and young people like Alex?
So this is always a complex one because without knowing Alex's detail and not wanting to discuss Alex's detail, I can't answer the specifics around Alex. But as I said earlier on, we are looking at an expansion, but we have to make sure that we've got the right provision for the right children in Cornwall. Sometimes where children have very complex needs, we might not be able to have the right provision in Cornwall itself because we don't have that many children that need it, but then it's about making sure we get it as close to possible. And at the moment, yes, we have got children who go to school in Scotland, and that's not where we want them to be, but it just happens that that's the best school for them, and that's that bit about balancing what's right for the young person, what does the young person want, and how do we make sure that we're sort of meeting their best needs. But what we're looking to do is grow provision in Cornwall so that we can better meet the needs of more children. Might not be all, but certainly more.
This next one is from Daisy. She asked, is the new school for autistic girls on target to open in August? The local authority has brought a building around the Red Roof area, converting it using a spaghetti bridge approach to education.
Okay, so the local authority doesn't open any new schools anymore because all new schools now are what are called free schools, and they are part of the Department for Education that opens them. We are in close conversations with the people that are opening that school and looking to make sure that we can open it hopefully on time, and all the planning stuff is going through at the moment.
Morley asks, why isn't the school listening to my voice? We had many young people with SEN say that they were not being listened to and their needs met by schools.
So what I would say, was it Molly?
Morley.
If Marley contacts us, then we can make sure that we do some work with his school about pupil voice, because otherwise we can't. There are 280 schools in Cornwall, so knowing what's going on in all of them all of the time is really quite tricky. However, we will always, so we have a member of staff called Kate Evan-Hughes who leads on our pupil rights, children's rights. So we can make sure that if a school isn't listening to young people, we can go in and support them to how to do it better. So it's not about telling the school off, but it's actually working with the school to understand how can they do something better than they're doing now.
Okay.
As the parents carer Cornwall are stepping down, who will be the voice of parent carers in Cornwall?
So we are commissioning already the next parent carer Cornwall, whatever that is called. So that's already underway. We're having conversations about how we do that over the next 3 months. So the 31st of March, when Parent Carer Cornwall ceases, the new organisation will be in place.
A huge thank you for you, Kate, for allowing us to interview you today. We really appreciate you giving up your time.
Thank you. And I've enjoyed your questions. They're really thoughtful, really thought-provoking, and thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a huge thank you to all the Advocacy Fellows like us who are involved in this podcast. And a thank you to you for listening.